Find your way into your seated position, whatever supports the alignment of your body and the spaciousness of the spine. And just take a few moments with that to really feel established in your seat. Become more aware of the sitting bones connecting with the floor. See if you can at the same time feel the heaviness of the base of this pose and the lightness that it allows the spine. And with the chest lifted and spread, bring your hands together in front of your heart, closing your eyes and pointing your gaze away from your brain. Let your attention drift into the lowest parts of your body, inviting yourself to not only meet the floor, but start to connect with the floor. Inviting a release in your thighs and your hips, welcoming the weight of the femur bones. Thinking about your sacrum like an anchor. Taking just enough time to get quiet with yourself, to show up more as a witness, which requires a looking inward, a listening inward. This week, we're going to reflect back on this year. A lot of this year is still kind of hanging on to the body. So a lot of letting go with this restorative practice this week. Observing the next few breaths. And as you feel ready, bowing toward the heart. Releasing your hands, lifting your head, letting your eyes gently come open. And welcome. So the first part of this class will be done on our backs. And we're going to be working with either a bolster, if you have one, or 2 folded blankets. And so you can set those up kind of in the center of your mat so that they run right in the middle, and we're going to be resting the lower back on the, whatever you're working with, the bolster or the blankets. So once you have them placed, you can start to lie down on them, and I find it easiest to kind of start by sitting on them. And then while you're upright still, just make sure your strap is nearby for later. When you come down, you just want the blankets right underneath your sacrum. And if it's a bolster, same thing, just make sure it's right along the sacrum. And we're going to begin in reclining child's pose. So once you've kind of set up this position, you can pick up your feet and just let the thighs drop in toward your chest. And you might support your legs coming closer by grabbing your shins or grabbing your thighs. You might find that you'd rather take your arms overhead, so just let your body talk to you. So this initial part of our practice is really going to be kind of reflecting on where we've been and letting go. The body, we're very resilient creatures, but we hang on to our experiences in our flesh. And this year has accumulated a lot of tension in all of us. And so I really want us to experience the feeling of being held rather than hanging on. So in all these poses, I just want you to feel very supported and nurtured and not have to apply a lot of effort. And in this way, the body will start to kind of siphon off the excess tension that we've all been carrying, to cope, to manage, to get through, to endure. So you'll be here just a little bit longer and just explore what's happening in your hips. Even though you're in really deep hip flexion here, there might be some resistance. You might explore by kind of clamping the knees close so that the sacrum can feel broad. And we have the advantage of gravity helping us drop those thighs in nice and close, putting us into the rest and digest setting of the nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. And from here, we're going to be opening the knees now, just kind of guiding the knees out wide. And you'll feel your shoulders kind of come onto the floor a little bit more broadly. There'll be a natural stopping point. The legs don't want to go any farther. So just support your legs where they do arrive and bring some breath into your groins and your hips and your abdomen. We're going to do a little bit of kind of massaging the lower back now with a semicircular movement. So take your hands and gently join the knees and then spread your arms out to each direction, side to side. And you'll kind of do your belly turning action. So you're going to be moving your knees halfway over to either direction and then pull up toward the shoulder line and then down and back over. So you're moving the knees in kind of a semicircle. And it's best to really try to pull up toward the shoulder line when you're exhaling and to come out of that little pattern when you're inhaling. And just think about this, less about belly turning or sculpting the abdomen and more about massaging your lower back and getting a little mobility to the spine. And just moving slowly and gently. And if you feel like you'd rather linger on each side longer than one breath, that's your choice. And just taking a few more moments. And the next time you bring your legs back to center, we're going to extend the legs up for a version of Viparita Karani. Hold your hands onto your belly and then try to rock your head so your chin comes down closer to your chest. This pose is so simple and it really is kind of globally therapeutic to the body. Refreshes the legs. It helps us if we're feeling mentally kind of stuck. It offsets fatigue. Very good for the heart and the brain. And hopefully you're not finding you have to apply a lot of effort to be here. The idea is to really stack your legs in space so that there's minimal effort, the most minimal effort. And now we'll just take it a little farther by reaching the arms overhead. Try to be on the backs of your hands, just kind of extend out through your fingernails. And you can start to let your legs fall toward the chest, but watch your back. Make sure the back is not being strained in any way. This is Urdhvamukha Hashimotonasana, which means we're upward facing Hashimotonasana. You know this pose more when you're seated and folding over the legs. This is just another way to do the pose, different orientation with gravity. So breath by breath, exhale by exhale, just feeling the legs invited toward the chest. Feeling a stretch to the spine, of course, but not overly so. And if you find it's more helpful to your back, feel free to bend the knees slightly. Keep your chin tilted toward your chest. When the chest and thighs come together, we start to move into that quiet nervous system state. I'm going to go ahead and bring the legs back to a more upright position, folding, bending the knees. You can take hold of your knees with your hands and just rotating around a few times in each direction. And make sure to go in the second direction if you haven't already. And then when you're done with both directions, start to step your feet down and slide toward the head side so that the lower back comes onto the floor. And sliding enough back that you can place your ankles or your feet on the blankets or the bolster, and you're in bound angle shape. Just for a couple moments. Hands on your belly, your sacrum like a deep anchor, a tap root. Groins and hips hopefully surrendering. And we're going to get into this pose now a little bit with more support. So this is just kind of the welcoming. You're going to join your knees, roll to your side, and come up. And if you have two blankets, you're going to keep working with them. If you have a bolster, you're going to find two blankets. And we're going to be creating supports to each side for Badakonasana. So I've folded my thick blankets in half now to give myself, you want ample support. And they can be tucked anywhere alongside the thighs, the hips, the knees, wherever they go to give you the utmost support. And then your feet are joined and you'll come back down. And I suggest that you kind of overly support yourself because that will initiate the groins and hips to become more fully surrendered. So even if you don't need a ton of support, try playing with a little more today. And then once you're down, you should be able to become entirely passive. And you'll just sit with the next 10 breaths, just observing your breaths as they come, as they go. Nothing more is needed. That default setting of tension, of gripping, of tensing against, just let it go. About 5 more breaths. And now gently bringing your knees together again, use your hands to help you. We're going to be here a little longer, so if you'd like to tuck something under your head, if you haven't done so already, feel free to put a blanket there. And now we're going to work a little bit with the hips. This is one area of the body that does a lot of gripping and holding, and most of us are tense in our hips. So we're going to prop the right ankle to the left thigh and just begin there. See what happens. You might add some pressure to the inner knee if you're not feeling anything happening, any sensation in your right hip. Maybe add some pressure to the inner knee. So we've had a lot of rules, new rules put in place this year. And we've adhered, most of us have adhered to those rules to protect each other and ourselves. But rules have their own form of tension and holding. And so we're going to try to kind of let some of the tension behind those rules go. The hips are considered one of the areas where we keep rules in our body. So we'll just kind of tap into the hips individually here. So if you need more, you're going to pick up your left leg and just grab behind the thigh or the shin. And with the exhalations, inviting just a little bit of a deeper sensation. You can hug the legs in. If your left foot's still grounded, you'll be adding a little bit of pressure to the inner right knee if you need it. And with the exhalations, just kind of, again, siphoning off some of that accumulated tension. We're responsible, obedient, very conscientious adults, so we are very good at doing what needs to be done, but just let yourself offset some of the tension behind that. And there's no wrong answers. Maybe you're discovering a very tight hip space. Work where you need to be. It might mean that you need to back off. Just a couple more breaths here. And when you come through the next exhalation, you can inhale to release left foot down if it's up. You can extend right leg. Just kind of push the ceiling back with the sole of your right foot. Make sure the leg gets very firm so that you can straighten out the knee. And then we'll set up second side, starting just by propping the left ankle against the right thigh and keeping the right foot down. Just see about it. Don't assume that your hip will be ready for more. And then adding a little pressure if you want to kind of test the waters and see if the hip needs a little bit more going on. And then again, it's your choice if you're going to pick up the right foot. If you need a little bit more sensation, you can clasp behind the right thigh or in front of the right shin. And every time you exhale, just kind of squeezing a little bit, very gently. Really want to massage the hip area. Staying with this for 4 more exhalations. When you come through to the end of the next exhalation, you can place that right foot if it's lifted. Grab behind the left thigh. Just shoot the leg up. Try to press the ceiling back through the sole of the foot, firming the left leg. And then feel free to step down there, and we'll set up a supported Parangustasana. So we're going to be initially propping the right-sided hip with one of your blankets. So what I like to work with is a thick rectangle. So I've folded my kind of standard rectangular size in half on the length aspect. And you're going to tuck it, kind of catch it underneath your right buttock. And then you want to be also finding your right strap or your strap, and you're going to make a loop with it. So you can just take the tail through the rings. It doesn't have to be a tight loop. It can just be a sliding loop. And that loop will go around the right foot. Okay, so it's a little bit of a setup, so just make sure you followed along. You have the blanket kind of caught under the right buttock, not completely under your butt cheek, just kind of a lip under, kind of a lip underneath the buttock, the outer edge of the buttock. Think about the blanket cradling you more than being a platform underneath you. So what you're going to do next is take the strap and run it under your neck from right side to left. And then your left hand will find the strap, and you can wrap your knuckles so you don't have to squeeze or grip so hard. And you want to fully extend your left arm out to the side so that you have some counterweight running over to the left side body. And then you can reach your right hand up your strap as kind of like a secondary support. Extend your left leg. And now hopefully that blanket is propping you in such a way that you're just going to slowly open up the right leg to the right. But you'll feel that blanket giving you really nice support so that you don't feel like you've just uprooted your left side. Keep your eyes looking straight up. Feeling a nice, big, significant stretch to the left, or the right inner thigh. And we know that our feet like to sickle. So just kind of energetically reach out through the inner right foot to keep that line of energy on the inseam of your leg active and alive. The groins are a big part of our breathing, and tight groins are inhibiting to bigger, more satisfying breath. So we're just kind of addressing tension in the groins, in the inner thighs. And as you hold the stretch, just making sure your breaths are smooth, lengthened out. Start to guide your leg back. You're going to take the strap now over to your left foot. So once you have it off of your right foot, you're going to place it on your left foot. We're going to keep the blanket where it is. And you're still working with your strap running under the neck from right to left. Your left arm is reaching out to the side. Your right hand has slid up the strap, but not so that you've uprooted the right shoulder. And you want to keep your lower back even on the ground. On an exhale, just start to gently guide your strap to the right. And now the blanket is supporting us from collapsing all our weight to the right. So as you take your left leg to the right, your goal is really to keep that left buttock close to the floor, not to peel it off the floor, to keep the imprint of your sacrum very even on both sides. Now releasing tension in the outer hip, in the butt muscles, those big gluteus muscles. Just meeting that tension and giving it a chance to offload. Discharging the tension from the body. Animals are, we're animals too, but other creatures are better at offsetting tension immediately after it's accumulated. Us, not so much. Just a couple more breaths here. Just meeting your edge wherever that is, giving it breath, giving it attention. And now you can come back to center. You can keep your strap on this foot. You're going to step the foot down now for a moment and transition the blanket to being caught underneath the left buttock side. I'm working with a lengthwise blanket just so I'm getting as much of the length of the buttock, upper to lower. Again, you want it kind of raised, like so you're kind of feeling like you're in a little bowl, not so much a platform under the buttock. So just catch under the outer hip and buttock, not the whole butt cheek. And then once you have that, we're going to start to run the strap now from left to right underneath the neck. You can extend the right leg, reach the right arm out to the side. Again, wrap your hands so you don't have to squeeze and grip and create tension in the body that way. And then the left hand will be some secondary support, just kind of reaching up the strap. Considering your sacrum, that's what you're going to kind of observe as you move the left leg to the left. Keeping that sacrum really even on the floor. We're not trying to tip our weight to the left. A blanket should help you keep the lower back really nice and level. And this one, we're targeting the inner thigh and the groins. Reach out through the instep of the foot. I happily have a wall here catching my foot, which is really nice because then I can totally let go. But if you don't have a wall, you're going to try your best to minimize effort, because effort is tension by definition. And we're trying to really let go of that tension we've held for many, many, many months. Now we'll start to move the leg back. We'll be keeping the blanket, but transferring our strap to our right foot. Still running the strap from left to right, still extending the right arm long to the side. Still supporting with the left hand up the strap. Extend your left leg. And again, considering the lower back, the sacrum staying very even across the floor, start to guide your leg to the left. Just meeting an area of sensation that there's some discharging of tension to be done. Nothing more is needed. We don't have to go to the extreme. Oftentimes, if we do, the body tenses up. And then remember the idea that you're trying to keep that right buttock like it's Velcro to the floor. You don't want to kind of uproot the right buttock to do this. Smooth, steady, elongated breaths. Just 3 more of them. And then you're going to inhale the leg back to center. Take the strap away from the foot. Take your blanket out of your way. Take a moment to extend your legs. Be on the backs of your hands. Just take a few moments in complete passivity, comparing the legs, sensing the body, sensing the vibration left behind from what you just did. We've moved some tension through. We've brought breath into the body. We've elongated tissue. And now there's the reclaim side of the class today, and really exploring what is possible, what is next. And so we're going to come into a little fun sequence. Starting with Anatasana, which is the Vishnu's couch pose, where we lie on our side. But because there's a little bit of contact of the hip against the floor, I'm going to have us take a blanket. And just put the blanket, it doesn't have to be bulky now, so just put the rectangular blanket in the center of the mat. You're going to be lying down on your right hip side. And you're going to be lying down on your right hip side to the front edge, the long edge of that blanket mat setup. And then you can prop your head. So we've talked about the area of the armpit in the Iyengar system, considered one of the most vital energy areas in the body. And for a lot of us, it's congested. And here in this position, you can work with opening that area a little bit by really extending the elbow farther away from the shoulder line, closing the gap. You can take your free hand and feel how much space exists between the outer armpit and the floor. And try to reach that elbow out so you're closing that gap. You're also going to feel more stable once you do. Hopefully you still have a little loop in your strap. You're going to take that loop now to your left foot. And you can extend that left leg up. Feel free to wrap your left hand. And now you really have to stabilize. So the stabilization pieces here are that armpit area, the reaching elbow. It's also the connection, the firmness of your right leg. You should be really feeling the outer edge of the foot against the floor. Your foot is flexed. If you need more stabilization, you can modify this pose and bend your right knee to feel more stable, like you're not wobbling around the whole time. And then you're attempting to take the left foot slightly back and the left buttock slightly forward, which obviously the body wants to do the opposite. So you're trying to guide your left foot back and your left buttock forward. So from here, we're going to roll onto our backs. Now we're in Parangustasana 1. And you can keep holding that left hand close to the strap. And just place your right hand on your right hip. So we're going to be kind of pumping the hip a little bit. And what I want you to do is as you bend the knee, the left knee will want to go really wide. I want you to try to really stay close to your left arm. So you're trying to hug in toward midline with the knee. You're not trying to go into Badakonasana here. So as you bend the knee, try to graze the arm with your inner thigh and keep the knee closer to midline. As you exhale, that's when you're going to kind of pump and bend the knee. Think about the top thigh coming closer to the floor. As you extend the leg, try to maintain that really closeness of your thigh to your chest, to your torso. Okay, just a few more pumps. Last time here, just bending, staying close to midline, squeezing in with the knee, not letting it go too wide. And when you extend the leg next time, from there, you're going to find your way back to your side. A little bit of a transition. So find your bearings again once you're there. Again, feel free to bend the bottom leg knee to stabilize if you need that. And now begin to bend the left knee and find your tree pose shape here. Placing the foot against the inner right thigh. Taking that left knee back, the left buttock forward to stabilize. Creating new habits, new patterns, new rules, new adventures. And now keeping your thigh in space where it is, see about taking the leg back up just one more time. Good. And then find yourself back in Parangustasana 1. You can help yourself come out of that strap. And from there, roll to your side, and you're just going to set up for the second side of that sequence. We want to be resting on the left hip side. And again, along the front edge of that setup so that when you roll back, you have the blanket under you. But it also is nice because it works like a ruler. You can put your entire body on the same line. That's the idea. And then you want to work with that armpit area a little bit. So you can get stable by closing that gap a little more. You can extend the elbow away. You can feel how much gap you're working with. And you're also stabilizing bottom leg, whether it's straight leg, which is more standard, classical position, or modified with the bent knee. Good. We'll be taking that top leg up with the loop on the right foot. Wrap the hand. And we can sense the foot wants to fall forward, the top buttock wants to poke back. So we're trying to equalize that and counter that. Taking your right ankle back in space, taking the right buttock forward. Good. And now see how smoothly you can transition onto your back. You can place the left hand over the left hip point. Try to find your straight right leg. Firm your left leg into the floor. Take a few nice big breaths. And now you're going to follow the guidance of your breath. The exhale is the best time to kind of dive into that hip space. You'll start to bend the knee, stay close to the arm. You're grazing the arm as you guide the knee down toward the floor. Inhale to extend the leg. As you extend the leg, attempt to keep the leg as close as you've brought it. So the thigh closer to the chest. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. And just be playful, observing your body in motion here. One more pump, so one more knee bend. And when you inhale to extend, then you're going to carry it back to your side as smoothly as you can. Finding your steadiness. And then from the straight leg position, start to bend the knee and attempt to place the foot to the inner thigh. You could also place it below the knee. And you can support the leg there if you want to hold the ankle or hold the strap nice and close. Make sure you're supporting yourself as much as you need to drive the knee back, to roll that top buttock forward. Good. And extending the leg and bringing yourself back onto your back. And once you're on your back, removing your strap, stepping down and extending the leg. And again, just taking some time here to notice. Now we're going to set up for cross bolsters. So you're going to create an X shape with either your two blankets, or if you're working with a bolster, you'll work with one bolster and one blanket. You're going to make an X shape with the two props, and the top one will run with your spine. So if you're working with the bolster, that should be your bottom prop, because the thinner one is better to run with the spine. If you have additional blankets, it is kind of nice to have a thin layer for the head, because the head gets a little more pressure. So you might want to put a thin blanket down for your head, nothing big. And then once you set it up, you can sit down on top of that setup. Your shoulders and head should be on the same height. So if you're using that head blanket, make sure that your shoulders also have support if the head does too. And then you want to spend a little bit of time trying to get the shoulders down, the arms unfolded in Shavasana position, so palms up. Your back might be telling you to keep your knees bent, feet grounded at first. Otherwise, feel free to extend your legs one at a time. Resting on the heels and aligning the toes above the heels. The chin and chest are closing in on each other. Your gaze is pointed toward your cheeks. And you're trying to really take the tip of the tailbone into the body toward the ceiling. If you can pressurize your shoulders, you should be able to help the shoulder blades come toward the chest. Try to keep the forehead soft and your jaw soft and your cavity inside the mouth very spacious. 5 more breaths, smooth and steady. Only the effort needed, nothing more. When you're coming through the next exhalation, you can start to leave the pose by bending your knees. And you're going to push yourself to your head side until your back comes down. And then you can cross your ankles or take bound angle with the feet slightly elevated on that cross bolster setup. Just a few moments there, giving the back a rest. And then you can help yourself to one side. And clear the 2 bolsters or blankets out of the way. And we're going to finish with a twist before we come into pranayama. So you'll be flat on your back, arms extended, side to side. Right leg will cross over left leg. And then we'll be coming to supine twist, tucking your left hip under you. Your legs fall into the floor, and give your legs some support if they need something to hold them there, because you really want the legs surrendered. Also support the legs by taking the left hand on top of the right knee or thigh. And then encourage the right side ribs to float back toward the floor. Try to dial down any unnecessary effort in the body. There can be kind of a resistance where the thighs meet each other. So imagine your thighs kind of merging together here. There can be excessive tension in the outer hip. Maybe sending a couple breaths there. And either looking straight up to the ceiling or starting to look off to the right. Thinking about how the spine is kind of a paradox, equally supple and stable. Just like ourselves, very supple, very flexible, resilient, very strong. And now we'll get to the other side. So just start to slowly move yourself to center. Once you're there, take a moment to rearrange the torso so your hips and shoulders and spine come down evenly and spaciously. Re-extend the arms in each direction and crossing the left leg over the right. Tucking your right hip to the center of your mat, letting the left hip come above the right, letting the legs fall to the right, and then using your right hand to hold the left knee or thigh. Again, creating some support underneath the legs if you need a little bit of propping there so that your legs can surrender. Think about every exhale, your outer left ribs rolling back toward the floor. And your gaze is either up to the ceiling or off to the left, depending on what your neck will allow. If your shoulder is uncomfortable, drape your left hand over your side body. And just scan for those unnecessary tensions. Maybe where the body meets the floor. Maybe where the thighs meet each other. Maybe the spine is a little bit reluctant to go into its deepest twist. And now gently bring yourself back to center. And when you get there, we're going to happy baby the spine and the hips and the buttocks and the sacrum just to get a full release before pranayama and shavasana. So pick up your legs and with your arms, just reach through the space between the knees and hook up with your big toes. And if you can't reach them, grab your ankles or shins. Just start to rock from side to side. So your legs kind of move freely. You're rocking from side to side along the lower back and the sacrum. You might be gently pulling one foot at a time toward you. You can make this your own. There's no precise way it has to be. Just kind of using this shape to explore any tension or any sensation that wants to be addressed before we come into those poses of stillness, of physical stillness. And from there, you can join your knees. You might circle the knees. You might hug the legs in, reclining child's pose. So just let the body talk to you, taking any final movements that it wants or needs. And from there, you can begin to set up for pranayama, which will be just a few minutes on our backs. You have 2 blankets, hopefully. What you can do is tri-fold them, which means you're making a letter Z shape. And you're going to stack them, but you're not going to stack them perfectly on top of each other. You will stagger them. And the top blanket is going to be offset away from your body. So that means you have floor, blanket number 1, blanket number 2, like a stair step. So if you're cold, you want to take care of that by either adding a blanket over top of you or putting on extra clothing. And if you know your eyes don't like to stay closed when you're reclining or doing shavasana, you could use an eye pillow or anything. You could use your strap over your eyes. So the butt should definitely be down on the floor. The lower back should not have any blanketing. The first blanket we want touching kind of where the lowest ribs are. The second blanket should be right behind the chest. And then you want to take the additional excess above the head and just kind of roll it so that your chin tilts down toward your chest. So classically, pranayama is done seated. But for a lot of us, the sitting is quite strenuous. And so we kind of learn the pranayama reclining so that we can master the pranayama before we also have to master the physicality of sitting. The feet are separated wider than hips. You'll be on the backs of your hands and you have to Goldilocks that setup because we all have different proportions. So the butt is on the ground, the lower back is free and clear. The lowest ribs get the first plane of blanket, and then the thoracic spine, primarily behind the sternum, the breastbone, gets that nice height, the bulk of the 2 blankets. And of course, the head is propped, tilted forward with the chin. So just begin here, closing eyes and listening for the breath. You might not hear it, but we're tuning the ears to that radio station of the breath. You're welcome to just stay with breath observation Ujjayi 1. And if you know Ujjayi 2, which is emphasizing exhalation, you can begin at any time. It's that very subtle constriction of the throat muscle to pass the breath more smoothly and slowly only for the exhalation. You don't have to do every single exhale. You could do every other exhale. And for most of us, when we take Ujjayi exhale, we can hear the breath, which gives us more information about the smoothness, the quality of breath. You want really to have that one smooth sound, not any rippling, not any cessation. And it's very delicate practice. We're not trying to make our breaths foreign to ourselves. We're not trying to do anything exerting, really. We don't want to agitate body or brain. So you have to kind of watch all of that. It's such a subtle practice. It wasn't taught until the asana, the gross physical body, was mastered, really. So just be friendly with yourself as you explore pranayama. It's a very delicate touch. Also watching that you're not hardening the abdomen as you exhale slowly. Pranayama is really lovely. It cuts beneath the noise of the chattering brain. It becomes a place we can find ourselves when we're feeling lost in the flurry of the world, noise of the world. If you're still with Ujjayi 2, just a couple more rounds. If you're not, just continuing to observe your own breath, the body breathing on its own. And if you're completing Ujjayi 2, come back to easy breathing, just for a few moments to witness your breath in that automatic way. You're going to transition to lying flat on your back for the last 2 minutes. Try to do so in a way that doesn't upset your body or brain more than necessary. A poem by John O'Donohue from his book, To Bless the Space Between Us, a book of blessings. This blessing is called At the End of the Year. The particular mind of the ocean, filling the coastlines longing with such brief harvest of elegant vanishing waves, is like the mind of time opening us shapes of days. As this year draws to its end, we give thanks for the gifts it brought and how they became inlaid within, where neither time nor tide could touch them. The days when the veil lifted and the soul could see delight. when a quiver caressed the heart in the sheer exuberance of being here. Surprises that came awake in forgotten corners of old fields where expectation seemed to have quenched. The slow brooding times when all was awkward and the wave in the mind pierced every sore with salt. The darkened days that stopped the confidence of the dawn. Days when beloved faces shone brighter with light from beyond themselves, and from the granite of some secret sorrow, a stream of buried tears loosened. We bless this year for all we learned, for all we loved and lost, and for the quiet way it brought us nearer to our invisible destination. Let's take a deep breath in and just let it flow completely out. And maybe taking another deep breath in and letting that one flow completely out. Bringing tiny movement to the fingers and toes. Maybe starting to bend knees and elbows, rock your head gently from side to side. As you feel ready, helping yourself roll over to one side. Being very gentle with yourself as you move from here to seated. Unwilling to take on those tensions that we so quickly do take on. Just being more vigilant. And we'll sit up tall, and once we're there, join the hands together in front of the heart. Taking a few moments just to acknowledge the effects of your practice. Where we've been, where we're going, where we are. Let's take a nice breath in together as a group and let it go. And the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right. Thank you all. Just a reminder here, Friday's class will be at 9, just because it is New Year's Day, and for anybody that actually does stay up until midnight, I don't know who does that anymore, but we'll give you an extra hour to sleep in. So 9 o'clock on Friday, and Wednesday's class is at 8 for those of you coming to Wednesday's class. So I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.